Hi, boys and girls. I've got a book here that's an old one. It was copyrighted in 1956. That's even older than Mr. A. But I love it. And this one is a book that I normally save for the second graders, but I think I'm going to make an exception. I'm going to open it up to all the lower grades, so you can enjoy this too. It's called Gillespie and the Guards. It was written by Benjamin Elkin. Pictures are by James Doherty. Now, this story, well, there's a thief, and you have to be a detective. Something is going to be stolen right in front of your eyes, and if you're not watching, you won't know what it is. So at the end of the book, I always stop, and I will ask, has anyone figured out what was stolen in this story? So here we go. Gillespie and the Guards. In a country far away from here, there were three brothers who could see better and farther than anyone else in the world. The youngest brother had very powerful eyes. From a block away, he could read the date on a penny that was inside your pocket. The middle brother had extra powerful eyes. From 2 blocks away, with his eyes closed, he could see a tiny speck in the eye of a butterfly. And the oldest brother had super extra powerful eyes. In the darkest part of the night, he could cover his face with a heavy bandage and still read every page of a closed book that was in a locked room 3 blocks away. All right, kids, now we know that's impossible, but let's just pretend they have like super vision. When the king heard about these wonderful brothers, he invited them to join the royal guards. After they had put on their bright red uniforms and their shiny black boots and their high plumed hats, the king was so proud of them, well, he announced a prize contest. "My new guards have the brightest eyes in the world," he said. "If anyone can succeed in fooling all 3 of them, he will win a gleaming golden medal set with shimmering, shining diamonds." A gleaming golden medal set with shimmering, shining diamonds? Oh, what a wonderful prize! From all over the world, people began to flock to the palace. They were trying to fool those 3 brothers. Well, there was a boy from Keokuk who disguised himself as a dog, and he ran all around the palace grounds yelping, "Bow wow," and "Arf, arf." That was pretty easy. A man from Switzerland disguised himself as a giant clock, and he stood in the corner of the palace all day saying, "Tick-tock, tick-tock." That didn't fool him either. Then there was this lady from Winnipeg. She dressed herself up as a huge stick of peppermint candy. And she did look so real, 2 children tried to lick her with their tongues. Blah! But none of these people could fool the new guards. With one glance, the guards could see through any disguise. And as hundreds and hundreds of persons tried and failed, the 3 brothers, well, they began to grow more and more famous. Never having been so famous before, the 3 brothers didn't exactly know how to behave. How are we supposed to act?" asked the youngest brother. Are we supposed to smile and laugh? Or are we supposed to look serious and proud?" "Well, I think we should be serious and proud," replied the middle brother. "After all, we are very important persons now." "You're right," agreed the oldest. "From now on, let's be serious and proud." And to everyone's surprise, the new guards suddenly began to point their noses higher and higher up into the air. And they started to smile less and less. This bothered many people, but most of all, it bothered a little boy named Gillespie. Gillespie used to come to the palace every day to play with the young prince. And until now, he had thought that the royal guards were his friends. "I'll enter that contest, and I'm going to make those guards smile again," he thought to himself. Besides, wouldn't mind it at all if I should happen to win a gleaming golden medal set with shimmering, shining diamonds. Well, that very afternoon, when it was time for Gillespie to go home, he came right up to the gate, pulling this little red wagon. The wagon was piled so high with leaves, he had to hold the pile with his other hand while he pulled the wagon. The youngest brother was the guard at the gate, and he even though he tried to look serious, he couldn't help smiling just a little bit. "Just a minute there, Gillespie," he said. "Isn't it rather silly to think that you could win that medal by hiding things under those leaves?" And with his powerful eyes, he could actually see right through the leaves. But to his surprise, he could see nothing that was worth anything. "All right," said the guard at last. "You're kind of foolish to pull a pile of leaves all the way back home when you can find all that you want right on your own block. But I guess boys will be boys. Just the same, just so to prove that you're not fooling me, I better write it down." And in the royal guard book he wrote, "Gillespie took a load of leaves." Well, the next day, when it was time for Gillespie to go home, he again came to the gate pulling a little red wagon. Behind him was a trail of sand, and the wagon was piled so high with sand that he could hardly move it, even though he pulled it with both hands. Now it was the middle brother. He was the guard at the gate, and he too could not keep from smiling. "Just a minute, Gillespie," he said. "Isn't it rather silly to think that you could win that medal by hiding things under sand?" And with his extra powerful eyes, he looked through and through the sand, but to his surprise, well, he could see nothing that was worth anything. "All right," said the guard at last. "You're foolish to pull a pile of sand all the way home when you can find all that you want right on your own block. But I guess boys will be boys. Just the same, so as to prove that you're not fooling me, I'll write it down." And in the royal guard book he wrote, "Gillespie took a load of sand." The third day, on his way home, Gillespie was really working hard. He was tugging and pulling that little red wagon. It was packed with stones. The pile was almost as high as Gillespie's head, and the stones jiggled and bumped in the wagon as he pushed and shoved. This time, the older brother was on guard at the gate, and he actually laughed out loud. "Just a minute there, Gillespie," he said. "Isn't it rather silly to think you could win that medal by hiding things under stones?" And with his super extra powerful eyes, He looked at the very insides of those stones. He could look right through them. But to his surprise, well, he could see nothing that was worth anything. Have any of you seen what Gillespie is stealing? Have you figured it out? I'll give you a clue later. All right, the guard said at last. You're foolish to pull a load of stones all the way home when you can find all that you want on your own block. But I guess that boys will be boys. Just the same, so as to prove that you're not fooling me, I'll write it down. And in the Royal Guard book, he wrote, Gillespie took a load of stones. Well, this sort of thing went on day after day after day. Gillespie, he would come to the gate with a wagon load of grass or weeds or even old tin cans and bottles. The guards laughed at him and more, but every day they would just write it down in the Royal Guard book and then they'd let him go home. Now at last, there came a day when Gillespie asked to see the king. Please, your majesty, he said, I have succeeded in fooling all three of your new royal guards. And I should like to have that medal, if you don't mind. Oh no, the king laughed. You haven't fooled anybody. I have checked the Royal Guard book myself, and I know that everything you ever took has been written down. Look, I'll show you. And the king showed him the pages and pages that said, Gillespie took a load of leaves, a load of sand, a load of stones, a load of grass, a load of weeds, and a load of tin cans and bottles, and many more. But, your majesty, said Gillespie very respectfully, that's exactly how I fooled the guards. I kept them so busy checking on the worthless things, they didn't even notice the important things that I borrowed. If you will come to my home, I shall be glad to show you. The king was so interested that he immediately ordered the royal carriage to drive him to Gillespie's home. With drums beating and banners flying, a whole parade marched right down Gillespie's street. Gillespie rode beside the king in the royal coach, and the three guards proudly rode ahead. The band made beautiful noises, and the children all cheered. When they came to Gillespie's house, Gillespie took them all to his garage. Your Majesty, he said proudly, do you remember that palace storeroom filled, that was for all the toys? Well, I borrowed all of these things from that storeroom. I took them right past the royal guards. And the king and the guards and all the people stared in amazement through that open door. Now, I'll give you a few seconds. I want you to think. What had Gillespie taken right past all three of those guards, day after day after day? He did borrow something. Did you see what it was? It wasn't the rocks, and it wasn't the sand, and it wasn't the grass. You all saw it. It was on every page. You see, the garage was filled with dozens and dozens of little red wagons. He was taking the wagons from the castle. The guards thought the wagon belonged to Gillespie, but it actually must have belonged to the prince, and every day he snuck one out of the castle by putting other things in it. And the guards didn't even notice. And so the king himself presented Gillespie with the gleaming golden medal set with shimmering, shining diamonds. And the three brothers are still very famous, but they don't worry anymore about acting serious and proud. That is the book, Gillespie and the Guards. An oldie but a goodie, and I hope you all enjoyed it.